Okay, so food and beverage management applications. So these applications are some what we're going to talk about in this chapter are things that are kind of specific, mainly to the back of the house and how it relates to the money that we make on different items. Um, but they're kind of specific, and these could be standalone systems. Now, hopefully, they're going to be part of our POS. It's highly recommended that if you have systems that you use all the time, like recipes and systems and stuff like that, that you update to something that is either part of your POS or at least interfaced properly into the POS. All right, so let's talk about some of this stuff. So some of the three categories we're talking about is recipe management, sales analysis, and menu management. I'm going to camp out on menu management, but I'll briefly go over the other two. So recipe management, you're going to have files like ingredient files, recipe files, menu item files, how all that stuff ties together, the ingredients to the recipe and the recipe to the menu items, all that stuff. Then your ingredient file, the ingredient file has, how you buy the purchase unit cost and converting that purchase unit to a usable unit that you can put in your recipe, stuff like that. Recipe files, going to have the recipe unit cost, menu selling price is going to convert all that stuff. The menu item file is going to describe it. It's going to talk about the selling price. It's going to have all that information in it, portion quantities, sales totals, things of that nature. Then your the sales analysis application is going to give you a lot of your reporting. Now, we talked about some of the reports last week, but some of the specific reports that we're dealing with here is menu planning reports, sales forecasting, menu item pricing, inventory control, and ingredient purchasing. All this stuff can be done automatically in one system or another, where you you sell something, and that goes into the inventory system, and then it does all these things build on each other. So you need something, you sell out of something, one system finds out we need it, and then it gives you order recommendations, and then spits out recipes for you to use or whatever, however you got it set up. But there's a lot of interaction here. So there's a lot of cool stuff. All right. So you could spend hours talking about that because every software is going to be different. Probably call it something different, tie in different to each other. But I want to talk about menu management. There's a lot going on in menu management. You get your menu item analysis, menu mix analysis, menu engineering summary, all kinds of different stuff. So basically, why we have all these things tied into the menu management applications is for menu engineering. Now, most of you, well, I won't say most of you, some of you have probably had classes on menu management. Not menu management, excuse me, menu engineering. Now, menu engineering is a way that we divide up our sales mix, or the items that we have for sale. We divide it up and we categorize it into four major categories. And it's all designed to improve our performance. All right. So those four categories are stars, plow horses, puzzles, and dogs. Now, what makes a star a star and a dog a dog? Well, its relationship with how popular an item is and the contribution margin. Contribution margin is simply the money we make on something. If we pay for, and all these softwares do all this for us, so that they figure out that and they figure out continuously. So if the price of a certain ingredient goes up, it continues to work all that out. So what happens is, if a contribution margin is how much we pay for the ingredients to sell an item, all right? So one plate of the filet mignon dinner cost us X amount of dollars, and we sell it for this. So that distance between that is profit, gross profit, or net profit, actually. So it's the contribution margin. We call that the contribution margin. How much money is the difference between what we're paying for and what we're selling it for? That's the contribution margin, all right? So if we have a large contribution margin, that means we're making a lot of money on the product, or the potential to it. All right. And then if we have a low contribution margin, we're not making a lot of money on it. Now, you could just stop there and say, what are we making a lot of money on? What are we not making a lot of money on? But we also compare that to its popularity. So something that's very popular that we sell the most of, if we sell 100 entrees a week, we're doing bad. But let's say 1,000 entrees a week, if 750 of them are one item, that's a very popular item. All right. So the star is the thing that is very popular and makes us a lot of money, has a high contribution margin. Now, we like stars. Everybody likes stars. Then we have plow horses. Plow horses are very popular, but we don't make as much money. The contribution margin is a little lower. Okay. And then we have puzzles, which is not very popular, but we make a lot of money on them. All right. And I'm going to talk here in a minute about what we do with this information. But then we have low popularity and low contribution margins. So no, we're not selling a lot of them, and when we do, we're not the margins aren't real good. All right, and those are our dogs. Okay, so what do we do with all these things? Now, understand when you read this book, it's going to tell you specific things. If you have a dog, you do this. If you have a puzzle, you do this. This is coming from an IT perspective, right? There might be reasons not to do what this book is saying. So I'll briefly touch on that. But because this is a technology course, I'm not going to go into it as much as I would if I was teaching a menu class or a pricing class or cost control or something like that. But I will touch on it. All right. So what do we do with stars? Well, we retain stars, right? We retain stars because there's nothing wrong with a star. They're making us a lot of money, and they're very popular. If quite frankly, if 90% or 75% of what we sell is one item that's making a lot of money, well, good on us, right? Why would we want to work hard to shift the focus to another item that potentially might not make us as much money? However, you don't want to rely on just one because, taste shift and things like that. So you want to kind of retain your star, understand your stars there, take care of your stars. But then you have your plow horses. Now, this is where I disagree with the book. The book says to replow your plow horses. There's a lot of different pricing strategies out there, and just worrying about popularity index or menu engineering is not the only pricing strategy. All right, it is a consideration, but it's not the only one. If you're at a seafood restaurant and everybody in town, all the seafood restaurants in your market sell lobster, right? I don't care who you are, you're not making a lot of money off of lobster. Okay. In order to make high contribution margins on lobster, you got to sell the thing for $250, right? Or, that's maybe hyperbole, I don't know. But so there are reasons sometimes to retain plow horses. All right. So, and keep them relatively priced competitively, right? Because you got to look at your competition. There are times where we just have items on the menu that we can't really do much with. Now, what can you do other than change the price? Now, you might change the portion. Now, a lobster is a lobster, right? But let's just say, the market doesn't really bear people coming into your restaurant to spend $150 on one item. All right, so maybe we sell half a lobster. All right, so you can do things like that, or you could bundle it. You have a bundling kind of thing, or your size and stuff. You can play with that, or your portion controls on your size. There's a lot of different things, and raising the price might be fine, but I would always caution you to worry about. You have to maintain competitive pricing. Okay, so that's my plow horses, and then it says reposition puzzles. Now, remember, a puzzle is. We're making a ton of money off everyone we sell, but we're not selling a lot. So repositioning, put them in a more prominent place on the menu, having them, promote them in different ways. Sometimes that's a real good thing. Now, sometimes puzzles might be really bad popularity because, you might make a ton of money off liver and onions, but nobody buys liver and onions. Repositioning all day long, yeah, maybe. But there's different things you can do. It's basically in the marketing and the presenting of it and the trying to sell it, trying to maybe, suggestive selling through the servers or stuff like that. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have your servers suggestive sell a puzzle over a star, right? But you do want to have them suggest selling a puzzle over um, a plow horse. Like, how many times have we gone to you gone to a restaurant and said, yeah, I'm tossed between this and this, and the server will say, well, I do this. Now, most of the time, maybe that is a personal opinion of the servers, but a good restaurant might train. Well, I don't know about good, but some restaurants who are conscious of this might train their servers to suggest the puzzle over the plow horse. All right. Uh, if the person says, "What about this star? You know, this one and this one. One's a star and one's uh, a puzzle." Uh, well, then the star all day long. But you see what I'm saying there? Okay. And then dogs. It says remove dogs. Well, eventually you probably would remove dogs. There's times where you want to keep dogs. Again, I taste this all the time. Some of the classes I teach, some of the other classes I teach. There's times where you got to keep a dog. All right. Same example. You're a type of restaurant that people expect certain things on the menu, and it's on there. You don't make a lot of money on it, and you don't sell it very often. The only reason why, I won't say the only reason why, but I mean there's some reasons why you would have to keep one on there. But if you feel like you have to keep it on there, you want to make sure at least couple things, that you're not buying a specific ingredient just for that item. Right? If you're buying a specific ingredients and specific ingredients just for that item, you're not selling a lot. That means you're either buying it in really small amounts, and then you're paying more for it, or you're buying it decent amounts and you're wasting it because it's rotting before you get to sell it all. So if it's something that you can get relatively easy, it has a good shelf life. It's no harm, no foul, uh, but people expect it, and you do sell some. You may or may not want to keep it. So again, this is going more into restaurant planning, to pricing and stuff like that. But I really wanted to touch on it because the book here does make some just some plain old, remove this, do this, do that. It's a lot more nuanced than that. Again, this is written by IT people, and they do a very good job. But those of us who've had to been in the trenches of restaurants know that not everything is always cut and dry. So there's a lot of other stuff in this chapter. There's a lot of good stuff. Uh, just when you think you know about all the different technologies, and you've got every need that you could possibly have, that you have a technological tool to help you with that, then new ones show up after that. So this is an ever-changing thing. The way they relate to each other is ever-changing. I mean, now we're at a point where most softwares uh, are all inclusive and everything else. But anyway, this is a really good chapter. I want you to go ahead and read it carefully. And I'll see you next week.